What if I told you there was a band that made 2 amazing albums, vanished without a trace, and now their records are worth an absolute fortune? Well, there is, and I'll bet you've never heard of them. Not only are we going to delve into their history today, but I'm going to go on a quest to discover what happened to this band and hopefully line up an interview with one of the band members to ask them the question, whatever happened to Gracious? And between you and me, the answer to that is yes. I did manage to get one of the band members, but not just one, but 3 for an interview. Stay till the end to find out what happened. In the late 1960s, there was a band called Gracious. Now, they're a prog rock band with kind of Baroque elements, and they were really inspired by King Crimson, having played a couple of shows with them. They were signed to Vertigo Records, and one of their 2 albums was on Vertigo Swirl, which is a label I absolutely love to collect. Now, I think one of their very biggest shows was they actually played the Isle of Wight Festival in 1970. They rubbed shoulders with Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, The Who, Miles Davis, and a host of other great names. For some unbeknownst reason, the band released their 2nd album on Philips, on a budget label called This Is. Their 2 albums now go for an absolute fortune. I think the 2nd one is even harder to find than the 1st. I've only ever seen 1 copy of it. And my granddad, Poppa Dave, who you guys may very well affectionately know, introduced me to Gracious.
My beloved grandfather, how did you first come by and get into Gracious?
It's all them at the marquee. We used to go there regularly every Sunday, and whoever was on was on. We saw lots of different groups, and one of them was Gracious. There was Uriah Heep, Yes, King Crimson. There was loads of groups we saw.
Was Gracious one of the standout ones?
Yeah,
then?
they stood out, and they were good because they were different. I like most of the groups that had mellotron because I like the noises that come out of the mellotron.
You like noises, don't you?
I like noises. And they were very good. They did stand out. And I was also collecting records on the Vertigo label. And they were on that. So I got it. And then they brought another record out that was supposed to be on the Vertigo label, but it didn't get accepted or something. And it went back to Philips. And I got that one as well.
What do you like about the music, like in particular? What set them apart from all the other ones you were doing?
Mellotron.
Well, King Crimson had a mellotron.
I like King Crimson as well.
Do you remember how many times you saw them?
No, I definitely once or maybe twice.
Who would have known that all these years later you'd get your grandson into that band?
To miss the generation, skip one was a blank in between.
Well, better late than never.
Better late than never.
I remember when I was first getting into prog rock, I asked him the question, what bands should I give a go? And one of them, he said, was Gracious. And after listening to the first album just once, I was instantly hooked, and I really, really did like it. So their music has become a shared passion between me and him. With Gracious being one of our favourite bands, I thought, why don't I set out to try and find out what happened to this amazing band, and why did they only produce 2 albums? What if I could find one of the band members and ask them from the horse's mouth and find out the truth about the band and why they disappeared? Now, I racked my brains to see if I could figure out if I knew anyone that was kind of involved with the band or knew a lot about the band. I thought, is there really anyone that I know that remembers this amazing band? And then it struck me. Not only did I know a man that probably knew the history of Gracious like the back of his hand, but he also may have connections to the band that might be the missing link between me right now and finding out the truth that I so desire. You guys have seen him before. He's a certified vinyl hunter's Vertigo expert. It's Barry Winton. So I arranged to meet up with him and ask him a couple of questions about the band. Hello, Barry.
Hello. Hey, before I continue, I promise today I'm not going to say okay.
Okay.
Now, the reason for that, when we done the Atomic Rooster show, I thought that I came across quite well, but I kept repeating that word, and I don't know why. But anyway, I'm back. Today we're talking about the Vertigo label, just for a change, of course. And we're talking about a band who I like very much called Gracious.
Yes. Well, what are your thoughts on Gracious,
Great.
first of all?
Great. Very good. Gracious is an album that I always liked. And my introduction to Gracious was by hearing a track on the Vertigo annual sampler in 1970 called Introduction.
Great song.
And I loved it, and very, very, very good. And I bought the album soon after in Harlequin Records, I believe, for 99 pence. And it was great. I mean, I could certainly detect influence by King Crimson.
Yes.
Some of the playing, I mean, I could really feel how the band were coming on, but I do think it would have taken another album to have got into their stride.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's some footage of Gracious on YouTube. Do you know that?
Isle of Wight, yeah.
Yes,
It's
the Isle of Wight
great.
Festival, 1970.
The Mellotron packed up, didn't it?
Yes, it did. And it's quite funny, their singer, Paul Davis, has turned his back. They were originally signed up by Tim Rice.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Andrew Lloyd's writing partner on Jesus Christ Superstar? Yes, he discovered Gracious. Now, they were signed up to Polydor and they released one single called Once on a Windy Day.
I know that one.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, they recorded a full album which was based upon a concept album about the times of the year.
Yeah.
At the 11th hour, Polydor cancelled the contract.
Oh no.
Now, Gracious were another band who were very influenced by King Crimson and the Moody Blues. They were formed in Esher. Do you know that, in Surrey?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Right,
Actually.
yes, they were. And my father had a business partner whose name was Peter Abbey, and he once managed Gracious at the beginning.
Oh wow.
And another band who he managed was Smile, who were pre-Queen. So I phoned up Peter Abbey one day, and it was good to hear from the horse's mouth who they were and how they got signed. Yes, after they lost the Polydor deal, they got signed up to Vertigo, and I believe it was once again through Olaf Wiper. But when Tim Rice signed them, their first single was produced by Norrie Paramore.
Okay.
And Norrie Paramore was chiefly responsible for overlooking the Shadows and early Cliff Richard.
Yeah.
So I think that had they been taken under his wing, I don't think they would have developed in the way that they did.
What was their history from then after they were signed to Vertigo?
We signed to Vertigo. They'd done one album.
Which is a great album.
But it was going to be two albums. And for some unbeknown reason, the second album came out on Philips International, which was a budget price label, as This Is Gracious. It was earmarked for Vertigo. And it has been said the album is going to be called Blood Red Sun, but the actual working title was called Supernova. I think the second album, This Is, disappeared even quicker than the first album.
I think so, yeah.
And I played it, it's great. I mean, the introduction track in it is like, fantastic, great heavy drums coming in. But it's very, very good.
Yeah.
Very good indeed. Now, through the Tim Rice connection, I don't know if you're aware of this, after the first album came out, Paul was a featured featured singer on Jesus Christ Superstar.
That's right, yeah.
You knew that?
I did.
Yes, I mean, I think that, and he's done some solo albums for EMI. I've got one spare one at home. When we meet up, Jake, you can have it.
Oh, thank you.
It's certainly nothing like Gracious. But when the band broke up after the second album, it was a shame because I really do believe there was a band there of great potential. There's so many stories about bands who were around at the time, Jake, who had one foot in the ground, and they didn't really get off the ground. I think probably because if we look back, certainly if I look back, there were so many bands, and unfortunately many of them did not get the breaks, which was a real shame.
Why do you think in particular Gracious wasn't able to make it at least more than two albums and do more?
I think it's like a lot of things, Jake. At the time, probably Black Sabbath were making a lot of money for Vertigo, than Rod Stewart did. And then it was just a case of moving on and, signing one act. I mean, I think they had to meet a certain target.
Yeah.
How many records they could sell. And I would be surprised if the first Gracious album sold more than about 2,000.
Yeah.
But I mean, a little bit like another band on Vertigo called Cressida. They were very much the same mould. I mean, both exponents of early symphonic rock.
Yeah.
I think they both had very good ideas. They both experimented with mellotrons and good orchestral arrangements. There's even a classical piece on the Gracious album, Vertigo in B minor.
Yes.
That starts the second side. And I like the way that it goes into heaven and hell. Being a Black Sabbath fan, I'm sure that certainly must have ticked the right boxes there, Jake. So many of these Vertigo bands, Jason, I mean, it was just, my belief about so many of them, Jake, that it was just all good to be true.
Okay, Barry. Well, thank you so much
Is
for
that it?
being on the chat. That is. Thank you so much again for being on the channel. Really appreciate having you.
I mean, I'd love, Jake, any Vertigo bands or anything at all that you need advice on, or if you do another show, I would always love to be involved.
Well, you're the certified Vinyl Hunters Vertigo expert.
Oh,
now.
that's so good to hear.
Okay, thank you so much for
That's
coming
a pleasure,
on.
Jake. Thank
Really
you.
appreciate you coming down.
Brilliant. Okay.
Shortly after the interview, I did a little bit more digging with the information that Barry gave me. And guess what? I struck gold. I managed to find contact details for Sandy Davis, the singer, and we arranged a phone call. This is exactly what I needed. I was now only one phone call away from finding out the truth. Now it turns out that Sandy lives all the way up in Sheffield and couldn't make it down to London, sadly. But I think he went one better. He managed to get Alan, the guitar player, and Robert to agree to meet me and Poppa Dave for a coffee at Robert's actual flat and talk about their old band while Sandy joined us on a video call. You might be asking, what did they reveal? Did they shed light on the mystery that has haunted prog rock for decades? Well, I'm happy to say that we have footage of that interview, so roll the footage.
So, we're going to meet Gracious.
Gracious, oh my gracious, good gracious me.
Can you bloody believe it?
No.
After seeing them at a marquee, that one day you'd be with your grandson going to see Gracious.
No, I can't believe it.
No?
We have to see it to believe it.
Well, should we go and see it?
We'll try.
Go on then.
Okay, let's go.
Well, just be quiet. Hello.
Hello guys, come on in.
Hello.
Come on.
You
Hey.
must be Gracious.
This
That's
is
right.
yeah.
Hi.
I'm Alan.
Nice to meet you, man. Thanks. Good. And you are?
Robert.
Robert. Nice to meet you.
To meet you. That must
This
be
is my-
David.
That is David. I'll walk past. If
Yeah,
that's
come
all
on.
right. What a lovely place.
Come on in. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Come on,
David,
guys.
I saw you at the marquee years ago.
I remember you were down the front.
Yeah, I'm not headbanging.
I think everyone looks a bit different now.
Just a bit. So if you go up the stairs
Yeah.
and up the stairs again,
They go well.
you're
Okay.
going to settle in our city.
Okay. Great. Oh, I love dogs. It's okay. Oh, what a nice place.
Have a good seat.
Thank you.
Whatever you like.
Can I sit this one?
Sit wherever you like.
Thank you so much for having us, by the
Pleasure.
way.
Great pleasure. It's extraordinary that we know people who know anything about our band.
Thank you so much for having us, Alan and Robert and Sandy.
Sandy.
Yeah.
So, what were your guys' roles within Gracious? Just if anyone watching doesn't know.
Or let the lead singer talk, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, lead singer, 12-string guitar when it was needed.
General Dog's Body.
Yeah, right, the occasional, line, but when we needed it. And Rob was a drummer, and Alan was the guitar player.
Okay.
And all the riffs, all the E-riffs. That held the thing together,
Yeah.
Actually, you held the thing together, but let's not talk about that.
Well, all right. I did watch that Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, it was a bit embarrassing, that licensed melodram, wasn't it?
It broke down, didn't it?
It did.
But, that happens.
It did, and you held it together. You did a very good job.
You did do a very good job.
Well, it's about the only thing I could do, really. It's what I did,
Well, you were
It
very
wasn't
funny,
messing up
and you made some very funny remarks. What did you say? You hang on a minute. You're not going anywhere anyway, or something. You said you were very
Yeah,
funny,
something like that.
and we were shitting our pants.
So I suppose that's a good place to start then. You played the Isle of Wight Festival back in the day
Yeah.
with. Do you remember who else was on the bill when you played it?
What, that day or the whole gig? Because there were lots of things going on. I think Hendrix closed the show. Joni Mitchell played that weekend. I know Donovan was there because I remember his caravan backstage. But I can't tell you who was on before us. The reason we went on last on whatever night we turned up was because we missed the ferry that we should have got on.
We were late, yeah.
You were late,
Something like that.
We were late getting there.
and I suppose that was quite a big gig for you at the time, right?
Just a bit, but we didn't know that at the time. It was, I mean, it was in the diary as I think the next day we were in the studio. So it was like Isle of Wight, and then we went immediately. We stayed the night though. I remember in a B&B of some kind.
I don't remember, yeah, maybe. Well, I suppose so. The ferry would have stopped running by the
Yeah,
time we
so it was
got
pretty.
back.
We didn't go on till 10 o'clock or something.
And we decided to play, we were going to play this piece that we'd rehearsed to death. And we thought we had it down. We'd never played it live. So we thought,
Clever idiots.
come on, we're going to do this. It'll be our opening.
Which one was that then that we played?
This was the, this long space
Supernova.
Where everything broke down.
And we all forgot where we were, except for Sandy.
I can remember that we were having trouble with the mellotron because we largely followed the melody from the mellotron to know where we were. And when that started going wonky because the power wasn't sufficient to drive it, Martin then, I think he took the back off the mellotron and started crawling about inside, and the film crew thought, well, this is part of the show. Let's just follow him in, and he's going, get out of here, trying to fix the problem. Anyway, but gradually the thing was about to disintegrate, and Sandy saved the day by really being the conductor.
Yeah.
So we knew
Kept
where
us
we were.
Almost in time.
Yeah.
We were stopping at the wrong places and starting at the wrong places, but nobody knew that except for us. So
exactly. That's what bands and music was about in those days.
Yeah.
Well, not sort of make it up as you go along, but, nobody would have sussed that we were actually having trouble if you just made out that you weren't.
Well, that's absolutely right. Yeah, if you said that was part of the show.
Just sort of carried on and everybody think, well, it's part of the act. I seem to remember that, if you look at any live musician nowadays, and a little bit farther back into the 90s, they have ear monitors,
Yeah.
We didn't have that.
No.
And we quit, or the band fell apart, if you like, just a little bit before it came out. Because all we had was the monitors at the front.
Yeah.
And like you, Rob, you may have had a monitor speaker there, but it wasn't fashioned for every person in the band. The singer would have his...
We didn't actually, Sandy, we
Sandy,
never
had monitors.
We
We
never
didn't
had
have monitors ever.
Ever.
Those ear monitors, certainly not those ear monitors.
No, we had no
We didn't have
wedges.
speakers.
There were no wedges
No
on
speakers
stage.
facing us at all.
Except at the Isle of Wight. Otherwise, we were all playing to the echo from
That must have been really difficult.
Fine,
Well,
yeah.
it wasn't difficult. We were so used to it.
We
It
knew
was
the
just-
songs
It was
very,
part
very
of the
well.
thing. It was easy.
How did you guys know where each of you were?
That's a good
Were you
question.
just playing and then everyone was
Yeah,
following it?
Yeah.
So if you made a mistake, the whole band kind
No,
of...
what happened was Sandy kind of...
It just kind of kept
Conducted,
going. I mean,
yeah.
everybody knew their parts really
Yeah.
well, so it just kind of kept. It was good.
If there was any hiccups, he'd be there with maracas or a tambourine or a guitar,
Yeah.
and he'd turn around, have his back to the audience, and he'd get us back on. Sometimes there are moments where I lead people in and out, and I think we used to be a little bit stoned, and sometimes you'd forget that you got so into what was going on, you'd go on a bit more. There were a few times like that. I remember being on a stage when you all looked at me. The curtain went up. They're all looking at me,
Yes.
and I'm going,
Start.
what's happening?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
So somebody went in my ear. You're supposed to play the intro. Oh yeah. Bum 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 bum. And off we go. But I had no idea. My memory of that is only the mistakes. That's the tragedy of it. When I sit and listen to that piece that we've got on film, there are maybe, of the 26 minutes, there are 5 minutes that are really excellent, and the rest of it's all a bit iffy. But there are good 5 minutes. Good 5 minutes. There's some nice changes in tempo and stuff like that work. And then when we played Once on a Windy Day, that gelled nicely. The other memory I've got of that night was it was pitch black dark, so you couldn't see anybody, except like a mile away there was a fire burning.
Yeah.
And you could see faces all around the fire. Suddenly went,
People
oh
you
my
could see
God.
little figures dancing around. It was like
Like a Native American ritual.
What? But
Yeah.
so they
Made you
weren't
realise
lit.
how big.
So there they were. And we were on, I mean, the bit that you can't kind of get is that the stage is ginormous. And we were kind of huddled up together, really. When you watch someone like Stevie Wonder playing, and he's got the band split on those big stages, half over there, half over there, how the hell they're doing that is beyond me. To fold back and
ear monitors these days.
unbelievable how they keep it tight and in time and all that.
Yeah, it was a good time, I should say.
Well, we didn't have enough
Well, it
shows.
made it,
You wrote good stuff, Sandy. That's the thing.
I think what we did have a hand and feet, as the Germans like to say. Martin was very had a lot of ideas. He didn't quite know sometimes how to translate them, but that's where I came in, and vice versa. I always remember the gig that we played. It was kind of like Southampton University, so we got a small, bit bigger than a garage, but not much bigger. And the band that followed us, who was top of the bill, was King Crimson. And I remember this day because, we we finished our set being sort of happy with ourselves, patting each other on the back, verbally as well as physically. And that was a good one. We did all the numbers that we'd rehearsed, and there weren't many mistakes. Musicians, we were always aware of the mistakes. Next time I'll play an A flat, instead of whatever. But nobody really notices it. And then King Crimson came on and blew us all away. I mean, I just went like that. Alan was sitting next to you, and can't remember the exact, but I do recall the feeling that we had. You felt like giving up.
We were in Beckenham, Sandy, and we didn't support them. We double billed with them. I've actually got the slip of paper that they give out, and it's got Gracious and King Crimson all in the same writing. And you're absolutely right. The minute that they started playing, we all wanted to give up.
Yeah, well, certainly at the end of their set, I wanted to give up.
Well, we were supposed to, if you remember, we opened the show, and then King Crimson were in the middle, and they said, you can close the show, so we were going, oh, come on, like we're headlining, and but we couldn't go on. We just went, after they'd played, we just said, oh, well, we've got a problem with our plug. We spilt water on it, we can't, we can't do the second.
But do you remember, Sandy, that Andy McCulloch, when I was leaving Gracious, one of the King Crimson drummers came to audition.
Was that Charles?
No, Andy McCulloch. So he played on
Charles.
Lizard. Yeah, after that. He started telling us stories about that very thing. He said that when they were still not headlining, people wouldn't follow them on. They'd wait half an hour.
Yeah.
In Hyde Park, when they played with the Stones, the Rolling Stones made the audience wait an hour before they came on. So we got a Mellotron after that. I think the Beatles had one at the time, and I think Barclay James Harvest had one.
Fields and all that,
And I think where you heard it most, because I think the Beatles were just used it at the beginning of Strawberry Fields or whatever, those little bits were the Moody's. That was where the Nights in White Satin sounds like a chocolate box. But what we did with ours, if you're interested, is that both keyboards were the same. No one else had that. I've been reading that up. With Martin's Mellotron, he made sure, because it was an 8-second or 6-second loop, and then you'd have to remove your fingers and put it down. So if you had the two keyboards the same, it continued. And on a good night, when it was all sounding good, it was the most unbelievable sound. The strings cut. So were you at the Marquee and we had a good night? Some of that was pretty good.
We were amazing.
Was you there quite a few times?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely saw you once, but maybe more, I don't know. But
I think we played there 5 times.
Yeah.
We didn't have a residency, but we...
definitely there.
On the Marquee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that on YouTube. I've got it on my files on the computer. 1970. The menu.
Yeah. The
program thing.
It is. It's like a menu. You're right.
Yeah, it's really small, so you blow it up a little bit, and there we are. 4 or 5 times, something like that.
Yeah.
1970. Monday nights, of course.
The one that's not on there is the one when Elton John put an album out where he had all those cuttings from all the gigs that he did. And in the centre of it was the Marquee programme, and he's here in block capitals, and over on the left-hand side is us.
So what does Gracious mean to you guys now, looking back? Because it was obviously quite a long time ago, and you guys would have had quite long lives since then. You were around in the early 70s. So
late 60s, if you don't mind.
Late 60s, yes.
Yeah, once.
What does the band now mean to you guys, looking back after such a long time?
Great memories. I mean, it's encouraging that people still, we're on Spotify, we're on all the streaming channels, and people are listening to us and like us still.
Last night we listened.
We did have a listen to the.
It's nice to know that it's got a long life, and we popped up in Japan. There was a moment when I don't know, the last 20 years when Japan suddenly got excited by us, and they reproduced the sleeve and the.
What, with the Obi as well?
Yeah, they put them on a little CD, and they got the same, the cover. Well, I don't know if you've got the original album, but it's got slightly.
He's got the original.
Mottled. Raised.
They redid it flat, but this was
Yeah.
textured. The first ones were textured.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of originals, I brought something along that I wanted to pull out and see what kind of memories it might evoke.
Go on,
for you guys.
Well, that's a proper one.
That is a proper one.
Yeah.
Sandy?
That's the
What
first one.
memories does that evoke for you guys?
Yeah, that's the first LP we did.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, that's the one. It's got the sort of textured cover. Well, I'll tell you what I remember about this was that I only discovered later on that Barney Bubbles did the artwork for this. His idea for the middle was that when you open the cover and you looked
These
at
would all stand
that,
up.
these were all going to pop out like a children's book. They were going to come out like a 3D. Yeah, but the
We
budget,
saw that.
the budget wouldn't allow that. I don't know.
We
That
saw
would've
it.
been
We
really
saw a
cool.
mock-up of
Maybe.
it. I
But
remember
anyway,
the mock-up of
it
it.
didn't kind of work.
Well, like Jethro Tull.
Like Jethro Tull or something.
Yeah,
like
but
that,
you
where
remember
they
all the
stand up.
album sleeves those days. Everybody had, fold-out album sleeves, something extraordinary about that, and that was going to be ours. But the budget didn't run to it. So sorry, I'm fingering.
That's all right.
Fingering your.
I'll
your
tell you
precious thing.
what I remember about that album is that I can only speak personally, I had a very uncomfortable time in the recording studio.
Is that because you weren't up to speed yet with the kind of stuff that you guys were doing?
No, I don't. No, I didn't like. I wasn't relaxed in there. So not being relaxed means that you become more uptight and your timing will suffer.
Well, I'll tell you what happened is that we were under the cosh time-wise. We didn't realise. We just thought we could do it in parts. Some of the numbers were quite long, so we thought we would do a bit here, stop, listen to it, make sure it was okay, then pick up. And the producer just said, no, you're going to play it like it was like your live. So we went, really?
Yeah.
That's exactly what we said, really. And he went, yeah, we didn't really say we
We
don't
had
have the time.
three
He just
hours.
said it.
3 hours. That was it.
Yeah, but he never actually said, we don't have the time to do this. He just went, it's going to be more exciting, or persuaded us that it was to our advantage to do it.
The plus side to that, interestingly, Lol Cream asked me not very long ago, because they also recorded it in that Philips studio, and they said, did you get any interference from the Vertigo people? And I said, absolutely none. Nobody turned up, nobody wanted to hear anything, we just got on with it. And he kind of said, what? I said, yeah, we just did whatever we wanted. There was no control from upstairs. Literally, they were upstairs.
Yeah. Nobody came down. That was an odd thing.
Very weird.
Well, maybe they could hear it from upstairs.
Well,
they don't need
there
any
was
guidance.
one complaint about Alan's guitar.
One
It was too loud.
Too
Yeah,
loud,
they could
from
hear
upstairs.
that.
Yeah.
Why did the band inevitably split up? Why did you not keep going?
Money, I'm afraid. We ran out.
No money.
There wasn't enough money.
You weren't getting backed by labels or anything like that?
Nothing
It
at
didn't
all.
really happen. Yes, you wouldn't have got funding from the label. I don't think that was the case. But we didn't have enough gigs, and we weren't just earning enough money on the road. So it was just almost an inevitability, really, that it would.
Yeah.
So Robert left, and then I think Martin was the next to go, replacing what was a very tight unit where everybody got on really well together.
But for me, that nobody kind of, when Genesis were in a not dissimilar position. They weren't making it, there was nothing going on. Their families sat down, all the members' families, and they funded them. They built whatever equipment was required, they gave them somewhere to live, Our parents told us to fuck off.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite the same thing. We weren't supported by our families at all. And we weren't supported by our record company. And we weren't supported by our management. You can blame all of that. But if we were King Crimson, we wouldn't have needed any of that. So we were just an okay band that could have gone somewhere. There's some very interesting things on those records, and we could have extrapolated that and be allowed to kind of move forward, but it wasn't to be. There's loads of stories like that. There are hundreds of bands.
Yeah.
Gentle Giant comes to mind. There are loads of good bands.
Oh, yeah, there were.
I mean, our music was, album worthy, but there wasn't really
No singles.
something that you could just go, well, there's a 7-inch something, let's put that out. And we
But
didn't
we
give
weren't
them
that- we weren't-
anything that they could have gone, well, that could be something.
We didn't want to
With
do
a
that.
remix.
Yeah.
So a lot of bands would start off like Uriah Heep or Black Sabbath. They'd play whatever was required. And then once they got their fans, then they started moving to where they wanted to go. Uriah Heep certainly did that.
Yeah.
But we were very dogmatic.
Yeah.
If we had a guitar solo, it went on for a long time. You may or may not remember.
Alan got fed up with it.
Oh, no, I don't remember.
We didn't play for our audience.
I
We
remember
played
the,
for us.
Mellotron. I'm sure I remember the Mellotron.
Yeah.
He must have had a Mellotron.
Yeah, the marquee days.
Yeah. So one of the marquee shows, possibly the one you're at, was recorded by...
Probably maybe more than one. Because I saw Yes there a load of times, King Crimson, Uriah Heep.
Yeah.
We saw Spice,
Yes.
who become Uriah Heep.
Right.
Because that was a funny story, that was, because we was going to see Spice, and then they disappeared, and it said a new band, you were like, I thought, well, we'll just keep going, and it was Spice.
3 of them, wasn't it? That guy with the long hair, I don't remember what the...
Hensley,
Yeah.
Ken Hensley, David Byron, Mick Box.
Mick Box.
This is the guitar.
Yeah.
He's the only one still alive.
Is he?
Is he?
All the others are all gone.
So anyway, my brother recorded the marquee gig on a Revox with 2 microphones, I recall, and we got a cassette version of it. He had the original tape. We were touring in Scotland, and we listened to this thing. We thought, blimey, we're pretty good.
Yes.
We had a choice of cassettes. What should we play in the car? As we're driving around, we went, well, let's play Gracious. So we pop it in, and and it was the go-to thing, and we just thought we sounded really good. It was a bit crackly, the tape and because it was a cassette, but it was a really solid gig and made me at least appreciate how good we could be on a good night. Unfortunately, we were in Scotland and the car got broken into and a bunch of tapes were stolen, cassettes out of the car. I don't think you lost anything else.
There's nothing else to lose.
Just the cassettes.
Yeah.
So somewhere in Scotland there's a live recording of us on a cassette.
So if anybody's watching
we'd
this
love
and
it
you've
back.
got it,
If you got it, bring it back.
yeah.
Please, it's us.
I'd love
If you
to
think,
hear it,
gosh,
yeah.
that's good.
Do you think it's still out there somewhere?
I would have thought they would have listened to it and
think
gone, well, this
this
is
is right.
rubbish, and thrown it in the bin.
Yeah, probably.
Or recorded over it.
The upsetting thing was that my brother had the tape, and for whatever reason he decided he wasn't going to keep it, and he threw it away, which is
The chances of getting it back are less than...
Oh, yeah.
minus a million.
Wouldn't it be amazing?
Yeah.
Well,
And then we'd all listen to it and go, I don't know what we were thinking.
Well, hopefully,
Well,
now we've spoken about it and it's out there.
Yeah,
maybe
maybe.
it'll surface. But
That'd be nice.
well, all right. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, Jake.
We really do appreciate it, and I'm
Well,
sure for you more than
yeah.
me, it's a bit
I
of a.
was actually there.
Yeah.
He wasn't even thought of.
No, you certainly weren't. Cherry Red Records want to put out a retrospective, so they want to put the 2 albums out and the live.
Dogs on camera. It's only a little snip.
So that's exciting.
Yes, they want to put out, I think, a DVD and the 2 albums. You know,
A DVD?
The DVD
Yeah,
of
a booklet
the live of the Isle of Wight.
Isle of Wight.
Oh wow!
One day.
One day we've been going on and on and on and on, but yeah, they want to do a whole box set thing.
But when it's out, let me know, and
Of course.
I'll put it as part of this video so people can click it and
Thank you.
go through.
We're on Amazon and we're on Spotify.
Yeah, we're on it.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we sell the next 10 million albums, they'll pay us £4, won't they?
Anyway, thank you guys
Thank
so
you,
much
Dave.
for having
Thank
us.
you, Dave.
We
Yeah,
really
thank you.
do
Well
appreciate it, and it was great to meet you guys.
Nice of you to come over.
Thank you so much for having
Thanks.
us.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Sandy.
Bye, Sandy.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Nice to see you,
welcome.
Sandy.
Sandy, keep well, man.
Yeah.
Lovely seeing you.
Lots of love. That's
hi.
David.
Hello.
Well,
All right.
Here's our audience.
all right.
I just spoke.
Thank you guys.
Well,
Okay.
it's great to see
Bye.
you two guys as well. Yeah.
Good. Let's
Now, for those of you record collectors out there, I've got my original copy here with a couple of really sound additions to the front here. I didn't get the actual album signed because it's an original copy and I didn't want to alter it in any way. But Robert and Alan signed a couple of little cards, so I've got them there sitting there. Thank you so much for these. It really kind of adds to the sentimentality of this copy. We got Robert's signature there and Alan's there. Definitely one of my prized pieces in my collection now. Through 50 years of obscurity, their music will live on forever, and I really hope that this video is able to preserve their legacy even more, because they're one of our favourite bands and it's the least we could do for all the listening pleasure that we've had from the guys. To me, that's the beauty of music, it's timeless. Perhaps one day there'll be another band like Gracious, but for now, we'll have to make do with those 2 classic albums. A massive thank you to Sandy, Alan and Robert for having us. Thank you guys all so much for your time. A big thank you to Barry for helping us uncover some of the truth on this. And of course, a big thanks to Poppa Dave for coming along and sitting in the front room of one of his heroes, but hardly saying a word. It's classic Poppa Dave. If you enjoyed this music adventure, check out the mini documentary I did about Atomic Rooster, one of my favourite bands from the period. And they were also gone far too soon. Click up here to watch it. I know you're going to absolutely love it. See you there.